What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Today I want to take a look at a fighter by the name of Luther Rawlings. Luther Rawlings was a lightweight who fought out of Chicago, Illinois, but he was originally born in Tennessee. He was born May 24th, 1929, and he unfortunately passed away on March 7th, 2012. He had total bouts of 70. He won 37, lost 24, and had 14 knockouts. He was stopped 6 times and began his professional debut on June 25th, 1947. Now, Luther Rawlings fought fighters such as Joe Brown. He lost to him, but Joe Brown had a record of 21-11 at the time. Joe Brown was originally from Chicago, but he was raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He had a draw with Wallet Bud Smith. Wallet Bud Smith would eventually become champion, and Wallet Bud Smith had a record of 20-10. He would defeat Danny Bang Bang Whopper, very good fighter. He would defeat Orlando Zulueta. Orlando Zulueta at the time had a record of 42-19. He would face Art Aragon and defeat him. Art Aragon at the time had a record of 27-7. Joe Miceli, very good Italian fighter, very rugged, fought outstanding fighters of his time, but he would lose to Joe Miceli, and Joe Miceli had a record of 33-10. He would fight Johnny Saxton. Johnny Saxton would become welterweight champion, had his wars with Carmen Basilio, Tony DeMarco, Kid Gavilan, just to name a few. He would lose to Johnny Saxton, but Johnny Saxton had a record of 28-0. He would go on to fight Tommy Campbell, defeat him. Tommy Campbell had a record of 36-8. Tommy Campbell was a very, very good fighter, rough fighter out of the West Coast. He would fight at the Olympic Auditorium plenty of times and had great experience. He would face Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter had a record of 59-12 at the time that he faced him. Jimmy Carter would be lightweight champion, a 3-time lightweight champion. He would lose to Jimmy Carter, but Jimmy Carter was a phenomenal fighter. He would defeat Enrique Bolanos. Now, Enrique Bolanos was a very good fighter. He was a Mexican fighter who fought most of the fighters over on the West Coast. He had a record of 77-19 at the time. He would face lightweight Virgil Akins. Virgil Akins would become welterweight, and he was also become welterweight champion by defeating Don Jordan. Virgil Akins had a record of 17-7 at the time that he fought. And like I said, these are all very, very good fighters. Win or loss. He would face Arthur Pursley. He would defeat Arthur Pursley, and Arthur Pursley had a record of 30-2. He would lose to Freddie Dawson. At the time, Freddie Dawson had a record of 80-9. And he would defeat Marino Trigo. Now, Marino Trigo is a very good fighter as well. He had a record of 44-23. Let's take a look at Luther Rawlings' fight record here. Now, you can see his original name was Lucius Minor Jr. He began his career in 1947 on June 27th. And he would earn a victory. On July 28th, he would fight Willie Scott in Chicago and defeat him in 4 rounds. August 18th, he would face Nick Sanders in St. Louis, Missouri, and it would be a 6-round draw. September 16th, he would face Edmund Carr in Chicago, Illinois, and knock him out in 4 rounds. October 13th, he would face Charlie Baxter in Chicago, Illinois, and defeat him in 6 rounds. Oliver Cobbins, Chicago, Illinois, defeat him in 6 rounds on October 20th. Now, November 3rd, he would face Bobby Beanham in Chicago and defeat him in 8 rounds. December 1st, Jesse Turner, another good fighter, in Chicago, knocking him out in 4 rounds. December 15th, Jim Robinson in Chicago and lose to him in 8 rounds. On 1948, he would face, in January 5th, Al Gomez in Chicago, Illinois, knocking him out in 4 rounds. January 15th, Jim Robinson in Chicago. He would lose to him in 8 rounds. January 27th, he would face Jim Robinson in Louisville, Kentucky, and he would defeat him in 8 rounds. He would be stopped by Al Jordan on February 9th in Chicago. He would be stopped in 1 round. And as you can see here, he had a pretty decent record moving forward. His last fight in December on the 27th was against Tim Dalton in Chicago, Illinois, and he would defeat him in 10 rounds. In 1949, he would have another good year. He would just lose 1 fight, and that would be to Joe Brown on March 28, 1949. And Joe Brown, as I said to you earlier, was a lightweight champion. Joe Brown was a native of Chicago, Illinois. So these fighters knew one another. He would face Art Aragon on April 27th. He would face him in Detroit, Illinois. And he would defeat him in 10 rounds. So that was a very good win for Luther Rawlings. He would face Ray Brown August 1st in Chicago, knocking him out in 4 rounds. Pedro Ortega in Chicago. He would knock him out in 6 rounds on September 19th. On September 28th, he would face Danny Bang Bang Whopper in Rockford, and he would defeat him in 8 rounds. In 1950, he would only have 3 fights, but he would fight Tommy Campbell. Tommy Campbell was very known at that time. February 28th, 1950, in Los Angeles, he would defeat him in 10 rounds. Another good win for Luther Rawlings. On May 17th, he would face Gene Parker in Chicago, Illinois, knocking him out in 4 rounds. June 19th, he would face Mario Trigo in Los Angeles, and he would defeat him in 10 rounds. 1951, he would face Ronnie Harper on April 11th in Chicago, and he would knock him out in 2 rounds. May 19th, he would face Freddie Dawson, Chicago, Illinois, and he would lose to him in 10 rounds. Now, some of these losses could have gone either way, but they were very good fights at the time. October 3rd, Jay Watkins in Chicago, Illinois. He knocked him out in 7 rounds. October 17th, he would face Virgil Akins, St. Louis, Missouri, and he would lose to him in 10 rounds, but he would come right back and face Virgil Akins again on December 14th in New York, and he would defeat him in 8 rounds. 1952, January 16th, he would face Enrique Bolanos, in Chicago, Illinois, and he would knock him out in 5 rounds. On March 12th, he would face James Carter. That's Jimmy Carter in Chicago, and lose to him in 10 rounds. Like I said, Jimmy Carter would be a 3-time lightweight champion. Phenomenal fighter was Jimmy Carter. I have his fight films. On June 4th, he would face Johnny Saxton. Johnny Saxton would become welterweight champion. He fought him in Chicago and lost to him in 10 rounds. On June 30th, Joe Maselli in Brooklyn. That's in New York. He would be stopped by Joe Maselli in the 2nd round. On September 19th, he would face Jimmy Taylor in New Orleans, and he would lose to him in 10 rounds. So for the most part, Luther Rawlings had a very good career. Now, these fighters that I am showing you, please keep in mind, these were not the top-notch fighters. They have had losses. They have faced fighters who had losses. But at any given night, they were outstanding fighters. You had to fill up the card. There were 8-rounders. There were fighters who trained very well, but they came in sometimes a week notice. And they deserve to be respected and reminded. So salute to these fighters. And let's pay attention to their efforts and their bravery and the fact that they went in the ring and gave it their all. So I have to salute Luther Rawlings in his African-American fight series. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Luther Rawlings. Until next time, thanks for hanging in there with me. Peace.